1. Chapter. Two shores. The air in the small Lviv cafe smelled of ground Arabica, fresh rain, and unfinished stories. Sophie sat by the window, typing something on her laptop. The pages of her novel were being born slowly and painfully, as if the words resisted. She sighed, ran her hand through her hair, and glanced at the glass where rain blurred the silhouettes of people rushing along the sidewalk, each with their own worries, losses, and warmth. She was 26, a writer, somewhat of a dreamer, somewhat tired of reality. Too sensitive, too honest with herself, too unsure that she would succeed, that she was worthy of love. That day she received a message from him, a person who had lived in her letters and voice notes for 3 months, but not once beside her. Alex, you won't believe it. This morning I went into that store again, the one where I've never seen you but see you every time. Sophie smiled. His strange formulations were like a warm breeze brushing her cheek. He lived in Berlin. 29, an engineer working for a company that developed navigation systems for drones. Practical, logical, detail-oriented, yet capable of writing for hours about how the city glows at night from the Oden's Bridge. He was an unusual mix of precision and poetry. They met by accident, an online forum for creative people, where Sophie had left a comment under one of his sketches. That's how it started. Without a plan, without intention. At first, short phrases, then long letters, then nights where they listened to the same playlist, remained silent, and felt each other's presence across thousands of kilometers. But now things looked more complicated. They were both afraid to call it love. Because distance wasn't just kilometers, it was a chasm that could swallow any words. 2. Chapter. Letters that smell of smoke. One evening he wrote, Sophie, what do you feel when you imagine me beside you? Her fingers trembled as she typed her response. I feel calm and anxious, because I'm afraid that all this is just an illusion. He didn't respond for a long time. Then he sent, No, not an illusion. We're just on two shores. But I'm not afraid of building a bridge. And for the first time, she believed that feelings could exist even when gazes had never met. They exchanged letters like people once sent pigeons. His presence could be felt so vividly that Sophie sometimes imagined, if she closed her eyes, he would be sitting next to her, holding her hand. She wrote to him about her fears, her work, the novel she struggled to finish. He wrote about lonely Berlin evenings, about his worried mother, about wanting to begin something new. And the more they opened up to each other, the more painful it became to realize. They were far apart. 3. Chapter. The shadow of doubt. Sophie was afraid, not of the distance itself, but that he would change his mind. Her previous relationship had ended with betrayal. 2 years of life destroyed in one night. Since then, she hadn't allowed anyone close. And now, here he was. A man who could become everything for her, but who lived in another country. Alex had his demons too. Quiet, reserved, slow to open up. Too slow for long-distance love. Sometimes he disappeared for a day or two, then apologized, claiming he was overloaded with work, deadlines, projects. She believed him. But something inside her tightened every time. Until that evening when he disappeared for 3 whole days. 4. Chapter. The abyss of silence. 3 days of silence were torture. She tried to justify him. Work, sickness, trouble. But every night she thought, maybe he found someone closer, someone he could meet tomorrow. After the 3rd day, she wrote, Alex, if you've decided to leave, just tell me. He answered an hour later. I can't talk, not now. Sorry. Her heart sank. Tell me what happened. After a long pause, he wrote, I'm having problems at work. They might lay me off. I don't want to dump this on you. But the tone was different. Heavy, closed. We promised to be honest, she wrote. I'm scared, Sophie. Scared that I can't give you anything. That you deserve someone who's near, not thousands of kilometers away. I don't want you to wait for me. I don't want your life to depend on my uncertainty. She read it dozens of times. Tears rolled down uncontrollably. He was pushing her away, quietly, carefully. But it still hurt. 5. Chapter. The decision. She walked through the city for hours. The rain poured as if someone wanted to wash away every trace of human pain. But it didn't wash hers away. That evening, she stood at the station. She bought a ticket without even planning to. Kiev, Warsaw, Berlin. For the first time in a long while, she felt determined. Not impulsive, but clear and sharp, like the cold air outside. She decided, if he pushed her away out of fear, she had to be there so the fear would vanish. 6th chapter. Berlin. The journey was long. Train, transfers, different time zones, silent passengers staring at their phones. Sophie watched through the window and thought, what if this was a mistake? What if he didn't want to see her? But something inside propelled her forward. She arrived in Berlin at midnight. Cold, dry air, streetlight glow, the smell of coffee and fallen leaves. The city breathed with clarity, structure, steel equilibrium. Sophie stood at the station, inhaled deeply, and wrote, I'm in Berlin. The reply came in 5 minutes. You... What? I'm here. I want to talk. I want to see you. A long, far too long pause. Then, tell me where you are. 7. Chapter. The meeting. He waited at Alexanderplatz, tall, slightly worn, in a dark coat. His eyes, tired, lips pressed. When she approached, he froze, like a person witnessing something unbelievable. You're really here, he whispered. Yes, Sophie replied, because I don't want to be afraid anymore. They stood too close to lie to each other. He tried to speak, but words tangled. Finally, he said, I didn't want to hurt you. I just felt like I had no right to pull you into my unstable life. I want to be in it, she said quietly, even if it's unstable. He looked at her for a long time, and for the first time she saw his mask of restraint fall. I was afraid, Sophie. Afraid that you're too real, too important, and that I would ruin everything. She smiled through tears. Then let me decide what's important for me. He lifted his hand to her cheek, cautiously, as though afraid she'd disappear. Her skin was warm. He stepped closer. The world fell silent. Their kiss was quiet, unsteady, but full of everything: fear, tenderness, fatigue, hope, and what they both were afraid to call. Yet. 8. Chapter. Between two cities. The next days felt like a dream. They walked the city, drank coffee in small cafes, talked about everything: childhood, dreams, what hurt them. Alex showed her places he loved. Sophie saw him laugh freely for the first time. He was still uncertain. But beside her, his fears felt smaller. She realized the distance had been only a shadow. The real thing was what she felt now. Her trip was supposed to last 4 days. On the 3rd, he said, I don't want this to end. It won't, she said. But what happens next? Next, Sophie smiled, we start building something together, even if for now it's between two cities. He believed her. 9. Chapter. The climax. On the day of her departure, they stood outside the station. Cold wind carried fine rain. I'm leaving, she said, but this isn't the end. Alex was silent. Then he pulled her close with a strength that seemed to hold her entire existence. Sophie, I love you. The words fell between them like lightning. She closed her eyes. The world warmed. I love you too, she whispered. The train began to move. They held hands until the last possible second, until distance pulled them apart again, physically but not in spirit. 10. Chapter. Where horizons meet. A month later, she returned to Berlin. 2 months after that, he came to Lviv. They built their bridge from conversations, video calls, visits, plans, and dreams. It wasn't easy. They argued. They grew tired. But they were together. Not geographically, but internally. 6 months later, he met her at the airport with a small box. "Don't think anything dramatic," he said. "I'm not proposing today." She laughed. He opened the box. Inside was a key. "To my apartment. So you can come not as a guest, but as part of my home." And she accepted. Epilogue. Sophie finished the novel she had struggled to write. On the cover was the dedication. "To the one who taught me that distance isn't an obstacle. It's a path. And that real love does not fear the horizon." And she kept the old ticket to Berlin in her desk drawer, a reminder of the day she chose to stop being afraid.